Welcome to Money Talks. I'm really glad you're with us. And I think this is one of those shows you should tell your friends about. Why? Because we've got Tony Greer, TG Macro. He's joining us. Now, I just want to give you a little bit of background. Tony, on November 14th, put the all clear sign for the markets. And more than that, he was incredibly aggressive in telling people the signs are there. You should get into the stock market. Further on, he also doubled up on that, obviously done exceptionally well. So, the question is, what's going to happen next? I think you're going to find the interview with Tony Greer absolutely fascinating. Plus, though, we're talking about the capital gains exemption, the change in the taxes, all of that stuff. Well, I've been distressed that we have not talked about the impact on the medical community. And I think, Canadians tell me, hey, I care about medical stuff. Well, you should be caring about the impact of the capital gains increase, because it has a direct impact on 60% of our doctors, plus some other things about the impact of taxes on patient care, though. That's the key. Dr. Kevin McLeod's going to be with me, and I'll tell you, it's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people. Plus, we've got Ozzy with me. I've got Mike Levy. I've got, of course, Victor Adair batting cleanup for us. I got a Goofy Award, shocking stat. You know the drill. Stay with us. But first, once the debate over any issue becomes politicized, I think meaningful dialogue ceases. But then again, usually in these political debates, the goal isn't really meaningful discussion, but rather it's to manipulate us. And I think we're seeing another vivid example with the capital gains tax debate. The government continues to mislead the public by stating it only impacts 0.13% of the population. Well, that's simply not true, as many analysts and economists have pointed out. But it doesn't stop the finance minister and the prime minister for continuing to repeat it. And they're doing it with the most pejorative language in order to stoke class warfare divisions. But the thing is, I think this debate over capital gains reflects so many profound political and ideological divisions in the country. Some people feel it's unfair that some people have ended up with more money and assets than others. For them, merit and hard work, entrepreneurship, or sacrifices for training for years doesn't figure into the debate. Others are outraged by what they perceive as the government punishing success. And I think that's one of the pejorative that comes out when they say one group of people isn't paying their fair share. And by the way, when you talk about the top income earners, this is despite the latest numbers from StatsCan showing that the top 10% of income earners, and that starts at $106,000. I don't think many of us think that's rich, but $106,000 pay 54.4% of all income tax collected. And this is the environment that we're working in. The point, though, is that there's not going to be any reconciling those two sets of opinions, those two groups. And by the way, but there's another sizable group that so far is ignored, I think, by much or most of the commentary, if not all, and economists. And that is, there's millions of Canadians who oppose paying even $1 more in tax. And it's because of the relentless evidence of government waste and inefficiency. This week, the RCMP stated they have numerous ongoing investigations into how our tax dollars are spent. ArriveCan immediately comes to mind, but so do questionable relationships like this week's revelation that Steven Guilbeault, the environment minister, is a current shareholder in the venture capital investment firm Cycle Capital, whose company's got over $200 million from the Sustainable Development Technologies Canada Fund. Hey, by the way, this was on top of one of their directors having to resign last November after it was revealed that she had approved a payment exceeding $200,000 in subsidies to a private firm she led. Billions of dollars are spent without following the government's own contracting rules, and they do it with politically connected businesses that get hundreds of millions of taxpayers funded contracts. Think about this. Audits found that 186 conflicts of interest by the board of the government Sustainable Development Technology Canada Fund. There's other things too. There's other things that people consider outright waste, like $6,000 per night hotel rooms, or they take offense that $223,000 tax dollars was spent on in-flight food on the Prime Minister's 6-day Asian trip last year. There's no shortage of other examples. But some people are saying no more, no matter what the tax. They don't want to give any more. If it's a carbon tax, a capital gains tax, a net tax, no more influences. Not another dollar to government. Hey, by the way, I check out a lot of economists in academia who are weighing in on the capital gains increase, they don't show any sign that they understand that sentiment. But let me repeat, no reconciling the different sides. There is no meaningful dialogue, but there will be consequences. As Harley Finkelstein, he's the president of Shopify, one of Canada's most successful firms, says, this isn't the way to unite and move us forward. This is divisive and political. Well, that's consistent with the playbook that Joel Lightbound, he's a Liberal MP in Quebec, he said, from a positive and unifying approach, the decision was made to wedge and divide. Well, I mean, that certainly was apparent during COVID, but it continues with this rhetoric surrounding the capital gains increase and suggestion that some people aren't paying what's the fair share amount. But we're talking about 14.6 million Canadians, as University of Calgary economist Jack Mintz says. And one key last point, though, to note, the philosophical divide is even further illustrated by the finance minister who thinks that Canada's social safety net is secured through taxation. Specifically, in her words, getting the wealthiest Canadians to pay their fair share. And maybe that explains why the government has paid far more attention to taxation and wealth redistribution than putting policies in place that enhance productivity or attract capital. Now, on the other side, there are people like myself who think that a strong economy founded on capital investment, productivity per capita, entrepreneurship, innovation, that's the foundation that will support our social safety net, our standard of living, our charitable giving. So as I say, I don't see any reconciliation between these various sides that I think the capital gains taxation issue has certainly brought to the forefront. Hey, stay with us. There's so much more planned for you. I want to remind you to go to mikesmoneytalks.ca and sign up for 5 Minutes with Mike. Also, I want to invite you to go to Money Talks tweets, but see us on Facebook, Facebook, Michael Campbell's Money Talks on Facebook, but join us on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. We put up everything up there. So go to YouTube and just type in Michael Campbell's Money Talks. You'll see my old face smiling back at you, but all sorts of ways to access what we're doing on Money Talks and the excellent guests. And speaking of excellent guests, we've got several coming up.